As we roll on here, week after week, all summer long, this is STL Sports Central's special presentation, Best of the Best, looking at all of the jersey numbers and who wore it best in St. Louis sports history. All content here on STL Sports Central is brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. As we're about halfway through, we're almost to number 50, and tell you what, that's going to be a fun debate when we get
That'll be great. Yeah.
when we get to number 50 next week. I can tell you Bernie will be in on that, and I think he's really looking forward to breaking that down too. But before we get there and talk about a pitcher at number 50, we have two pitchers to talk about here at number 47, Randy. And one guy that started games, one guy that ended games. You have Lee Arthur Smith, and you have Joaquin Andujar, who I will be honest. I'll be upfront. I'll be honest. His career is not one that I'm all that familiar with. I've heard the name many times. Obviously, I never saw him pitch. Lee Smith is a different story when it comes to that. But primarily, I remember Lee Smith on the Cubs. But Randy, that's why we bring you in, a guy that has seen both of those guys throw on the mound.
Well, let's start with this though. A guy who played 9 years for the Cardinals. He had several different stints. He was never a guy that was a regular all-star. He wasn't going to be a Hall of Famer. But John Mabry, in terms of being a guy that it was in the community and gave a lot to the Cardinals over the years as a player and a coach, is a guy that wore 47 proudly for the Cardinals. And I think he had 3 different playing stints with the Cardinals. But the two guys,
Brian Ludwig also 47, right?
Yeah. And Luddy, if you look at the best single right-handed seasons of all time that the Cardinals have had, Ryan Ludwig is right there with one of the best. I think it was his 2008 season where he had the 37 home runs and 113 RBIs at a 966 slug. Pretty amazing. But I think it does come down to the two guys that you mentioned. It's Joaquin Andujar and Lee Smith. And Lee Arthur, the Cardinals really needed him because Todd Worrell got injured towards the end of the 1989 season. Cardinals had a chance to make the playoffs, and Worrell needed arm surgery, had arm surgery, and just wasn't available to the Cardinals. What do? Well, they had to go out and find a closer. And so with Whitey Herzog, the manager at the time, he signed off on a deal to bring the Cardinals Lee Smith in 1990 in exchange for Tom Bernansky. Bruno went to the Boston Red Sox, and Lee Arthur Smith just piled up save year after year for the Cardinals. And I'll tell you what, if they wouldn't have had him in those years, as bad as things were for the Cardinals in the early 90s, if they wouldn't have had Lee Smith, it would have been very Pittsburgh Pirate-esque.
Oof.
Yeah.
He just, you watch when I've seen highlights of him and look at every, remember the times that I saw him pitching but towards the end of his career too. He just had this overall just menacing presence on the mound,
and he was as nice a guy as you could ever imagine. He had the same demeanor. He was the quintessential closer, always had the exact same demeanor after a win or a loss. He was just a big old Louisiana country boy. He would go out and sleep in the bed of a pickup truck beyond the right field wall during the game, or he'd go into the trainer's room and take a nap, and then they'd wake him up in the 7th inning so that he could walk very slowly down to the bullpen. He was just the most chill, relaxed guy ever. So he comes here in 1990 when the Cardinals are trying other people and it's not working at closer, picks up 27 saves for the Cardinals, then sets a team record 47 in 1991, had 43 for the Cardinals in 1992, and then got traded during the 93 season, had a total of 46, including 43 for the Cardinals that year, and that added up to his Cardinal, until it was broken by Jason Isringhausen, career record of 160 saves.
Yeah, 478 overall for Lee Smith, who was elected into the Hall of Fame back in 2019. Just the numbers, you look at that, I feel like he's one of the, when you talk about great closers in the history of baseball, Mariano Rivera is a name that gets thrown out there a lot. Trevor Hoffman, a name. I feel like Lee Smith is a name that gets kind of forgotten about. In that,
and it took him forever to make the Hall of Fame. He should have been in there a lot earlier. And there hasn't always
today's game era committee. I believe, one of the committees had to induct him.
Right, and he was one of those guys that at the advent of the closer really becoming a thing with people like Bruce Sutter, Jeff Reardon. He was one of those guys too, late 80s, early 90s, that really changed the role of the closer to being a ninth inning guy that put up the monster save numbers. And I don't think that he got a lot of respect from the voters, the regular voters, because they said, oh, he only works 1 inning a day. Well, that was his job. There shouldn't be an issue with a player doing his job. And for many years, Lee Smith was the best at his job of anybody.
So he wore 47, but before he wore 47 for the St. Louis Cardinals, Joaquin Andujar wore the number 47 for the Cardinals in the 70s and the 80s. And a guy that you hear stories about, and some of those cases seem just too much to be real.
Joaquin Andujar was one tough Dominican, and the Cardinals, the day before the strike started in 1981, they traded Tony Scott to Houston to get Joaquin Andujar, who was a character. And by the way, he passed away. He's another guy that should be in the Cardinal Hall of Fame, but he came in and added a ton of personality and a ton of competitiveness to that team. And Joe, he was their number one starter from the time he made his first start after the strike in 1981, pretty much until the time he left. He was regarded as the Cardinals' number one starter. He is the guy that he went 15-10 with a 2.47 for the 1982 World Champions. He started games 1, 4, and 7. Pitched on 3 days rest. Got hurt. Actually, it was game 3 that he got hurt in. It started games 1 and 3 because we had a rain issue. And then he came back, got hit in the knee, was taken out of game 3. That was the Willie McGee game. Cardinals wind up winning that, but then they have to play game 7 here, and he was the winning pitcher in game 7 of the World Series. Then in 1984, he led the league in wins with 20
and a Gold Glove
and 261 and a third innings. And then in 1985, threw 269 and 2/3 and won 21 games with a 3.40 for the Cardinals. Unfortunately, his mercurial personality got the best of him in the 1985 World Series, and the Cardinals decided, you know what, we're going to move on without Joaquin Andujar, and they traded him for Mike Heath. But I'll tell you what, if you want to talk about impact, the Cardinals don't win the 1982 World Series if Joaquin Andujar isn't a member of their pitching staff. He was the guy, and as a matter of fact, you look at the rest of that.
Shutouts in both the NLCS and the World Series.
Right.
So was the bright lights were not too much for him.
And Bob Forsch was 15-9 that year, and then you had Steve Mura and a couple of rookies in that rotation, and he was the dominant force on that team. And he was also, by the way, a great clubhouse guy. Ozzie Smith has a million stories about Joaquin Andujar, and once he walked in to that room and said, we got all these punch and Judy hitters. I'm the only power hitter on this team. He was a switch hitter, not a very good one, but then legendarily called himself one tough Dominican. He was a character, and Whitey Herzog let him be a character, and his teammates loved him. He was scared to death of snakes, so they would get rubber snakes and surprise him with rubber snakes. It was just amazing what they were able to do in that clubhouse. So as much as I like what Lee Smith did here, and one of the great closers in Cardinal history, for me, this is a really tough choice. But and I know where you guys are going to choose. You get the final choice here by a hair. I think I might go with Joaquin.
All right, we hand things off to you. We ask you for your help in helping us decide who is the best 47 in the history of St. Louis sports. Ladislav Nagy also. He wore 47 for the Blues when he was here. Not sure on a Ram that might have worn 47. I'm sure there's one out there.
Yeah, and I think there might have been a cornerback for the old football Cardinals too that wore number 47. Let me, before we go away, I'm going to get that for you because you folks, I know, will be disappointed if we don't have that. So let's see, uniform numbers for the Cardinals. Boom. And let's move down to number 47. Here, this is going to be really easy.
Yeah.
Search. And the guy was, got to get the years correct here, in Cedric Mack. Cedric Mack was a terrific corner for the football Cardinals back in the 80s. So there's just another one. Probably doesn't rise to the level of Big Lee or of Joaquin Andujar, but he's a pretty good 47.
Let us know what your thoughts are on 47, and also let us know. Let us keep knowing which ones you think we've gotten wrong as we go through the list here, and we reach almost the halfway point by the end of this week. Where I got to say, Randy, your friend Ricky Horton, I don't think is going to be number 49 on the list. He's in consideration for it. But I think we might have found somebody that even Ricky, I think, would agree was slightly a bit better.
Okay. We'll keep that in mind.
So but maybe we can get Ricky's thoughts on it as well. But yeah, hand it off to you. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube chat, wherever it might be. Let us know your thoughts on who is the best 47 here on STL Sports Central. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours.